I remember I broke down just crying outside by the fire there. This is what I needed to feel, and now I can move forward. Learning about feelings, learning about like differences between feelings, deeper understanding of myself. You feel like you accomplish. When you go through something hard and you face your fears, you feel good about it.
It's not all about healing. It's not all about learning. It's kind of where the two come together. As we heal, we're learning. As we learn, we're healing. So it's so beautiful. Like when people can move through that and get to a place of actually feeling what's underneath the fear. And ayahuasca typically delivers just that. Hello and welcome to the Tikkun Podcast. This is episode 2. My name is Myrin, and I am here with my dear friend, Aron Stefansky.
Hello.
Welcome. So I just want to dive right in. At Tikkun, we offer a number of different services, ayahuasca ceremonies, breath work, yoga, meditation. You've been involved for about a year now, and I wanted to just ask you a few questions.
Sure.
All right. So, what I'd like to go over is kind of where you were, what you've gone through, where you're at now, and kind of an overall theme or process that you've gone through over the last year. Yeah. So again, where you were, what led you to, and then kind of as the process kept on unfolding, landing at where are you now?
Yeah. So first of all, thanks for having me on the show. It's an honor. So let's travel back a little bit. I met you coming up in a couple weeks, a year anniversary of me drinking ayahuasca with you. It's been probably the most profound year of my life, the most work, also the hardest. What brought me to Tikkun? It's always interesting. I feel like it actually brings you there. Tikkun brings people. It's not like... You're
talking about the calling.
The calling.
Like, even though you might not have been aware of it.
Oh, I had no idea. I don't think I even knew what ayahuasca was. So I have a good friend, Mayor, and he knew that I was generally struggling in life, riddled with anxiety. Wasn't diagnosed with anything besides for ADHD, but definitely struggled with anxiety and depression for most of my adult life. And he said, hey, I just tried this thing. Do you want to come check it out? I was just always looking for something. Nothing seems to work. Always looking for some sort of soothing mechanism for myself. And I said, why not? What is it? Yeah, you'll go, you'll find out. Some throwing up involved. I was like, I don't know about that. I was definitely nervous. And I told myself also, I'm not going to look it up. I'm going to go. So
you came to ayahuasca completely blind.
Pretty much.
Aside from Mayor telling you, hey, it can help with the anxiety.
It helped me, and I also saw him. I was like, you seem different. You seem happier. You seem content. I want that. I want in. And I remember leading up to it, he's like, okay, it's, we're going there. It's an hour and a half away. It's a few hours. I think he said it was, some sort of price. I don't remember exactly what he said back then. And then something changed where it then became a one night and a day thing, and then the price doubled. And I was like, oh, no, Mayor, I don't know about this. I'm not going for 24 hours.
So you were all in when you thought it was just like a one-time deal, and then all of a sudden now you're involved in a weekend retreat.
It's like, what are you changing up over here?
Yeah.
And then he's like, look, I got you. I'm going to pay for you. You're coming. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. And at that point I was like, all right, I'm in. So we went.
So the kind of mental, emotional state you were in leading up to was undertones, like feelings of anxiety. Sometimes depression would pop up.
Yeah, like little,
nature.
I guess, bouts of depression where no drive, would stay in bed. Could be a week, could be 2 weeks, could be 2 days. It always varied. And never really doing anything about it. Besides drinking, drugs, nothing that was actually helping.
So some of those soothing mechanisms that you were talking about just a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
Something to just pacify the feelings rather than address the issues.
I never really understood why I felt the way I felt. I wasn't in touch with pretty much any emotion. And I just was, that's my life. This is how I live, and that's how it'll always be.
Yeah. So you showed up to the first weekend retreat. We don't have to go through all the nitty gritty, step-by-step process. But if there was an overall theme of that very first weekend, and then how did you feel something shifted in you after that?
I got rocked. Going in, I was just a ball of anxiety. I remember I was in the bathroom probably like 15 times that day. I was just like, let's go. Let's get this over with. And I remember like laying down there and about to drink the medicine for the first time. I was like, what did I get myself into here? What am I doing here? This feels so weird.
I think everyone who has drank ayahuasca and continues to do so asks themselves that question at least
I continue
once.
to ask myself that question too.
Yeah.
But back to what your question was, the general theme. I instantly, during my journey, I had a shift where I actually felt for the first time probably in I don't know how long. I genuinely felt emotion. And I remember I broke down just crying outside by the fire there. And I hadn't cried like that in probably 15 years. And that was instantly the shift. And that night I was like, this is it. This is my way. This is my way to heal. I see a future for myself that's not riddled with anxiety and able to feel and be happy to be alive and be grateful and to be able to feel whatever I'm feeling.
So you experienced hope.
I experienced a lot of hope then. I experienced a lot of pain too, but in almost like a good way of like, oh, this is what I needed to feel, and now I can move forward. Like I felt lighter. I felt like I also felt like I was getting the answers. Like, okay, now I know my next step.
Mm. And so that was after the first night?
That was after the first night.
And how about the second?
So I went in, I remember I went with pretty much all my good friends. It was amazing. Like Mayor put together this fantastic weekend of all of us. I think it was about 8 of us that went together. And there was like a very varying response of like, I didn't get rocked. I don't know what happened. And I'm there like, I just got blasted away. Like, I was like, there's no way that I could get this rocked tomorrow night. And I was a little bit less scared, but I got rocked harder the next night.
And by rocked,
for
people that might not know.
I can try to explain what I mean by that. I know it sounds vague, but I was thrown into I guess, a scenario and world where I was probably in the most fear that I've ever been in. And I'd panicked both 2 nights. And just this feeling of, I want this to end right now. I wish I never did this. Why am I here? I'm cursing out Mayor in my head. I wish this would end.
Yeah.
It was painful.
But there was the feeling of, this is exactly what I needed.
Yes. That feeling of, I wish I never did this, but I wish I had done this a long time ago.
Yeah. So that fear you're talking about, you were feeling fear, you were feeling anxiety, magnified. Would you say that up until that point, fear played a large part in your life, leading to anxiety?
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if I ever knew that the fear played a role in my life, but I definitely felt like I wasn't being me, genuinely. And whatever the responses that my body was giving off was more like, I'm just going to stray away from situations that make me uncomfortable or put me in a situation that I just won't talk to that person. But fear was definitely a factor and definitely had a control over me. That was the anxiety.
Yeah. So a lot of people, like my understanding of fear, a lot of people think of fear as, somebody, jumping out and saying, like, oh, I experienced fear, or doing something they're afraid of. Eleanor Roosevelt had a saying, do something every day that scares you. Now, when people think of that, they think of, I need to go bungee jumping or jumping out of an airplane, right. Or I'm scared of horses, so I need to go ride a horse, do something that scares right. me. But for the most part, people won't do those types of things that they may be afraid of. But in a very subtle way, we experience fear all the time. You might get a bill in the mail and it's like, oh, I need to take care of that. That's a fear. Even if you may not experience it as like this shocking thing, that little undertone of anxiety, that is fear. It's fear of the future. It's fear of what's to come. So as many people are sitting here, they're probably thinking of fear as in, seeing scary right. things or things of that nature. But a lot of times with ayahuasca, fear that you experience is actually fear of feeling. You're afraid to feel the sadness. You're afraid to feel, judgment. You're afraid to fear, or you're afraid to feel, all of these things that can be bottled up inside of us. And so fear can become the first thing that comes up, especially when people first come to ayahuasca, because it's like, I've been working my whole life to actually avoid that on a subconscious level. And now this fear presents itself and there is no running away.
There's no escaping.
I'm just here to feel, and I'll feel through my fear until I get to what the fear is trying to keep us from feeling. Yeah. So
that's a great way to put it. It might have not even been on a subconscious level. I feel like I was always just suppressing because I felt like as a child I wasn't given that freedom to feel in the right way. And then it just gradually became more and more that I'm just not feeling. And it's that fear was stopping me, like, oh, how am I going to look if I am sad or crying, or if I say I'm scared, or if I say I'm nervous, if I feel anything, even if to show a happy emotion was like I'm being vulnerable. I'm scared of being vulnerable because I wasn't given that safe space to be vulnerable. So all that was definitely coming out in the first 2
Yeah,
sessions.
that's so beautiful. Like when people can move through that and get to a place of actually feeling what's underneath the fear. And ayahuasca typically delivers just that.
Yeah, it took more than 2 times for me.
Yeah.
But the first 2 were extremely profound for me, eye-opening, and showed me that even though I'm scared, and I still was scared to go back after that, I saw very clearly that this is helping me. This is helping me be me.
Yeah. So now I'm going to kind of jump back a little bit. Okay. When I asked you if you'd come on this podcast with me, what did you experience?
So it was a 2-minute conversation in my head of, I'm scared. I'm scared to talk about feelings myself in front of people. Maybe I'm going to mess up. Maybe I'm going to say the wrong thing. And then I was like, why am I scared? What am I scared about? And I went back and forth. I could say no right now. And I could give in to the fear. Or I could embrace it and be like, I'm nervous, Alex. But yes, I would love to.
Yeah. And so to just see in less than a year, even though coming on a podcast isn't necessarily as scary for somebody going and drinking ayahuasca for the first time, it does have the subtle hints of the unknown. I don't know what it's going to be about. I don't know what's going to be said. I don't know how I'm going to look. Self-judgment can come in, the fear of, being vulnerable now with an audience of people listening or even watching.
Right.
And so to see, I've known you on a pretty personal level over the last 11 months and change. And, we've done a lot of work together. You've come to Peru with me to do a master plant dieta, and to see the growth over the course of a relatively short period of time has been nothing short of remarkable. And so when you said, I'm nervous, but I will do it, like that's just a testament to the work that you've done. Your ability to jump into something again that you're unsure of what it will look like or sound like, or any number of things. Yeah. And you're still willing to do it. That's a part of the strength that you've accumulated over the course of less than a year.
And I definitely was able to also process it in that way of being like, okay, this is what I'm feeling. Like, as opposed to, okay, I just feel scared. I'm just going to not think about it and say no, and not even think about why I'm scared. So I definitely see how it translates into my everyday life. And and this is a small example, and there's been many, many examples through the last year of having hard conversations, talking to people, doing hard work that I knew I needed to do, being vulnerable, facing fears. So, number one, I want to take this opportunity to thank you. I want to thank Jacqueline. I want to thank also Myshi for putting his hard work and putting this beautiful, beautiful place together. He's helped so many people through you, finding you. He was, I guess, the one that found you originally.
Yeah, I mean, from the Jewish community, yes, he was the first. So, and for those of you listening, Jacqueline is my wife. She co-facilitates ceremonies, runs women's groups, and she is amazing. She's been such a powerful help in my life too, also with my wife. Yeah. So we thank you both very, very much. Well, you're welcome. It's my pleasure. And so that was kind of the entry into ayahuasca. And the way that I like to think of ayahuasca is you're almost entering into a current. So if you can envision a river, it's flowing downstream, you don't know what's downstream. The river could be flowing kind of fast, and all of a sudden you step in, And it can be a little jarring at first. You're trying to get your footing. You're maybe trying to fight your way back to shore. But then you realize, hey, if I just kick my feet up and float, like, it's just going to carry me through. I'm going to experience the river that's like within myself as I need to feel. And so once you've entered into the current, it can be a little turbulent, but you start to gain trust. You trust that you're safe. You trust that you're held, you're supported, and you start to trust yourself to make decisions. So with that kind of analogy, what you just described was your entry into this current of ayahuasca, this current of the healing work. Yeah. That goes way above and beyond ayahuasca too. So now I'd like, if you feel comfortable, sharing a little bit about your process. Like, as time has gone on, what tools, what different therapies, breath work, what other tools have you used or utilized in this journey, this healing journey?
So I think this is a crucial part. And I think without the integration and all the tools and the work that you do after, it could almost bring you backwards. So definitely for me, once I get the tools from the ceremonies, I've been working very hard in the last year. So thank God I have a very good therapist that I see every week. She's helped me a lot in this last year. And I have a good network of people that I talk to. I think it's very helpful for me and probably everybody to share what you're going through and not feel alone. You've been a big help in my healing process as well. We've talked many, many times. And when I have been struggling, it's the people that I know that I can trust, who have been there before, went through similar things, that helped me out. And I feel like I've built like a very strong support system for myself. And without that, I don't think I would be in this position. Just drinking ayahuasca definitely helps, but you need to have a strong support system, a therapist, some sort of professional. And I think that a big help for me was understanding how strong my breath is. And that's been a constant theme when I started drinking ayahuasca. So when the anxiety and the panic came, I didn't know how to breathe. And you've taught some very powerful breathwork classes, which have helped so much. I've definitely utilized a lot of that. I've spent time myself, taking time multiple times a week, just lying there, breathing, meditating. That's been a big help throughout the year. Definitely learning how to breathe. I know it sounds silly, we breathe all day, every day, but learning that your breath really, really can control the situations that you're in has been mind-blowing.
Yeah, a lot of people, to touch on that, a lot of people just take real shallow breaths. They're not even aware of it because they're not thinking about breathing. Their body is just doing it. And when they experience a little bit of anxiety or a little bit of fear, it can get a little quicker. And so then your body responds to this and starts to kind of compound the anxiety. And so if you can catch yourself in those moments, go, oh. And you just calm your body down with your breath. Like, a lot of people would never even think of it until somebody says it. And they're like, oh, you mean I can calm my body down? I can start to calm my mind. Exactly. I can start to calm my thoughts by just slowing down, deepening my breath, consciously breathing in and exhale.
been powerful.
Yes.
The progression. So I saw it first in the ceremonies and then in my life. So I feel like everything I learned during the ceremonies directly translate to what I can use in my life. And it started out, you probably told me this from the first night or the second night, right? I obviously didn't hear you saying breathe or how to breathe. And then by the fourth time, the fifth time, you're also saying breathe, just calm down, use your breath. And I don't want to breathe. I can't breathe. I can't do it. And then just learning, just like slowly, hey, I could breathe. I know how to breathe. I forgot, but I know. And seeing the change that now, if panic would come up, I don't need somebody telling me breathe. I know it sounds silly that I would ever need somebody telling me to breathe, but I did. And that's the progression of, no, I know how to breathe. I know how to get through it with my breath. So that's been a powerful tool I guess I always had, but I didn't know I had it. So
most people don't.
It was nice to figure that out.
I shouldn't say most people. A lot of people don't know how
Yes.
powerful their breath
They don't.
is.
And even if they do know, in those moments, it's hard to remember.
Yeah, if your mind is racing and your body's following suit.
Just starts escalating really quickly.
Very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Elongating your breath, deepening your breath.
Yeah.
It brings you back. So anxiety, as I understand it, is like fear of the future, fear of the unknown, fear of what's to come.
Right.
And so our mind tries to race ahead, and when we can consciously connect to our breath, we're coming back to presence. Right here in this conversation, we're just here.
Yeah.
If your mind is racing to what's ahead, what's tomorrow, what's the next day, what's the future look like? Woof. Yeah. Welcome anxiety to the table.
I've done that. I've been there. Yeah. It's been a big help.
And so now, if you could, chat a little bit about what a master plant dieta was like. Now, to give people an idea, so there's, an ayahuasca ceremony, there's a weekend retreat, and then what's called a master plant dieta, which can be a week, 10 days, 20, 30, 40, 60. Now, that is, for many people, not something they would ever do. For a lot of people, a weekend retreat here or there is fine. But what prompted you to go down the path of heading to the jungles of Peru with me to do a master plant dieta, which, by the way, is a practice of self-isolation in the jungle, not talking to anybody, no phones, no music, nothing like that, no distractions whatsoever.
Yeah.
Just you with you in a hut. Every other day, you're going to the Maloka to drink ayahuasca. On the days where you're not drinking ayahuasca, you're drinking the tea of another plant. And basically, it's just you with a journal in the jungle. What prompted you to go down that road?
So that was by far probably the most profound, hard, beautiful, dreamlike experience I've ever done. What prompted me was most likely you. You prompted me. But within myself... So I
appreciate your honesty, but I didn't try to talk you into it. I just shared.
You didn't. But and there were other times you asked me to go, and I said no. I felt, number one, I feel like I have this strong connection to the plants, and I always feel like there's just endless to learn. And part of doing something where it it's like originated from and where it feels the most real excited me. I would love to do that. It was definitely a thought. I remember the first time you asked me if I wanted, that you said you were going to Peru. I was like, yeah, in like 6 months. I don't know. It was a thought, but I definitely had a lot of fear still around going, of the unknown. I'm alone. No talking sounds insane. Drinking ayahuasca even 4 times, 5 times, or however many times I was going to do it sounded no way. And didn't have the safety net of being in your ceremony with the people I knew there. I was getting accustomed to where I was, and definitely a lot of unknowns. So what prompted me is I felt like I was on the way of like a breakthrough in my healing, and I felt like I could use a very structured time and place for just discipline and for myself. Like, the weekend retreats are extremely powerful, but then you're right back into your life. And the idea that I would be alone for 10 days didn't sound scary to me at that point. There were some fears attached to it, but it was like, okay, I could use this time to really think and figure things out, figure myself out, right? Because ultimately, that's the goal. What I believe is just to know yourself, love yourself on the deepest level. And I still have a ton of work to do, and I don't think I'm ever going to get there, but I thought that Peru would give me this opportunity to really focus on myself and what's next in my chapter of healing. So when you called me and you said, hey, I'm going to Peru, do you want to come? That's kind of what was going through my mind. And my first excuse was, oh, my wife wouldn't want me to go. So then when I asked her, she was like, yeah, I think it's perfect. I was like, I'm out of excuses now. So I was stuck then. I was like, okay, I need to just face whatever the fear is that would stop me. And I need to take a leap. And I signed up that day.
Yeah. So it's kind of the difference between a 2-day or 3-day weekend retreat versus being able to really marinate and be in this container for longer, to allow the body to kind of recalibrate, calm down, be away from all distractions.
Yeah, and the part that I really liked originally was that I'm going to have to figure it out myself. There's no one there talking to you and helping you through it, even after you go through a journey, whether it's hard or scary or something that comes up. From what I understood before I went is that nobody's going to be helping you figure it out. Like, you're going to have to sit there and figure it out.
Oh, we have nothing else to do.
Yeah, nothing else to do. Yeah.
I really enjoy the dieta work, the longer containers. I also very much so enjoy the weekend retreats, depending on what time allows. We were talking the other day, and you mentioned, maybe doing dietas at Tikkun. Yeah. And the thought has crossed my mind. I know it's crossed Jacqueline's as well. So maybe someday sooner rather than later.
That would be amazing. Won't have to take a trip out to Peru.
Yeah. But those longer containers, and by container, I mean like a beginning and an end point of the work. So, we hold a weekend retreat. That's a container. You come into the container, you do the work. And I'm sharing this for the people listening. They hear things, container, what? Like, container? It's you come into a container, do your work, and then leave. So when I say something like a longer container, like a 7-day or 10-day. It's
not just a longer shipping container.
Yeah, right. It's a longer process. Yeah. And there's immense power in both. And I do believe that for that type of work, people will definitely feel a call to that too. But maybe someday, I'll leave it at that. Maybe someday we'll be doing dietas at Tikkun. But anyway, after returning from your dieta, and now in all of these conversations, you can share as much or as little as you feel comfortable with. I know that a lot of things are very deeply personal. So if you could just share the feelings, not necessarily certain circumstances or stories, but what was it like? What did it feel like coming back and being on the other side of the work that you had set out to accomplish? What was the feeling after you did the work?
So when I went to Peru, I also had a plan and a goal. And when I came back, I knew what the work was, and I felt like I had got to the point where I could accomplish the work that I needed to accomplish, which was going to be very difficult for me. And so I felt this, I guess, also fear of, but more of a realization that I got to do what I got to do. I knew exactly what my plan of action was, but it gave me the ability and the clarity to see exactly. I gave myself, really. I mean, I sat there in my hut for days on end and just thinking and writing, doing nothing. And it definitely felt stronger. I felt clear. And I felt that was exactly what I needed. It was exactly what the doctor ordered. Not saying that it wasn't hard. There weren't difficult times, but overall, that was exactly how God set it up for me. 10 days in a forest, jungle, and figuring it out myself.
It's lovely. So then, that's been, 4 or 5 months ago, something like that. How has the weekend retreats changed for you? I mean, aside from the fact that you come and you support weekend retreats now, volunteering your time to support the process for others, but we're just continuing on with the trajectory of the year.
So I think in Peru, besides for the healing properties, I think part of the master plant dieta was a lot of learning. So there was a shift in Peru where I went from just strictly healing traumas and healing different aspects of feelings, and then there was like this shift where I started learning more, and it wasn't that I was working through so much pain. And that's
learning what?
Learning about feelings, learning about like differences between feelings, deeper understanding of myself, learning more about loving myself. And what didn't feel like I was healing from something that happened, and then I was able to feel like I'm feeling, and now I'm understanding exactly what I'm feeling. I don't know if that sounded too obscure, but
no,
that's how I feel it was.
Yeah. That's one of the many beautiful qualities of working with plants is the learning. It's not all about healing. It's not all about learning. It's kind of where the two come together. So as we heal, we're learning. As we learn, we're healing. It's a beautiful dance.
And I didn't have that before. I felt that it was just healing. Like when I was in the ceremonies with you, I was working through and healing and going through the pain, going through fear, going through anxiety, moving through all those, feeling those, but not necessarily learning about those feelings. And that's the shift. That's where I feel like I'm at now. And first of all, when I came back, that first ceremony, I just felt like, oh, I'm back on home ground.
I'm back at home.
Yeah.
I'm not some Maloka in the
filled
jungle.
with cockroaches and, no music.
Yeah.
Pitch black.
Music to my ears.
But still very nice and beautiful.
Yeah.
I had a great time there.
So now we've kind of moved through the different kind of phases of the last year.
Yeah.
Now looking at the whole year as like big picture, where were you there in the past to where are you now?
Okay. That's a great question.
We heard about the past.
And now we're also
anxiety.
coming up on the new year, Rosh Hashanah. So it's a perfect opportunity to really reflect and look back at my year because it's been an incredible year.
Rosh Hashanah starts tomorrow night.
Yeah. Perfect timing.
Perfect time. Reflecting on the year.
How has my year been? It's where I was, I would say I was lost. I didn't know myself. I probably thought I did. I thought I had all the answers. And I was addicted to many substances and using that as escapes. A lot of soothing mechanisms where I was numbing myself from feeling and continuing that trend. And the contrast is to here now, almost a year sober and feeling everything, understanding myself on a much higher level, a lot of hope, a lot of gratitude. Gratitude has been such an important role, learning how to appreciate my life, the small things, my family, my wife, my daughter, parents, siblings, friends, all my support, which I couldn't do it alone. So gratitude has been a big role. I'm a different person, but I'm also just me. Like, I'm more me than I ever was. I don't feel like my personality changed. I think that's something that people worry about. If I go drink ayahuasca, then I'm going to be different, and I'm not going to be the same. I'm not going to be funny anymore. I'm not going to like what I liked. It's going to make me go move across the world. Like, no, it didn't make me do anything. It gave me the ability to see what my priorities were and how to put a plan of action into place of how to get what I truly believed was right in my life. And I'm me. So I'm more me. I wasn't me last year, and now I'm me.
Yeah, what you just described as, you're the authentic you.
Yeah.
Like the you without all of the baggage. So you touched on it. A lot of people are afraid that, oh my God, I'm gonna change, or my wife won't love me, my friends will disown. Like they're afraid of change like that. When in reality, you're just setting down the things that you don't need to carry anymore.
Which is hard. It is hard, but you get
beautiful hard work.
It's beautiful. Yeah, you get to feel like yourself.
Yeah.
And people support you. You'll be surprised if anybody's struggling out there. You have support. You're not alone.
And if you don't have support, you can definitely find it.
Yeah.
A lot of people have an issue asking for support. There's a difference, as I understand it for myself, there's a difference between needing help and needing support. So a lot of people, they feel like asking for support in their process is asking for help. And if I'm asking for help, that must mean I can't do it myself, which must mean I'm helpless, which then must mean I'm not worthy. And so they're actually afraid to feel helpless. So it's just a little reframe is like, you're not asking for help, you're asking for support. And I'm sure you've heard me say this time and time again, but
it's true.
But help and support. If my 3.5-year-old daughter is looking at something on the counter and she's like, "Dad, can you help me grab that?" Yeah, I can. And chances are I will if I'm standing right there.
Right.
Like I'll just grab it. But say I'm in the living room in the other room and she's like, "Dad, can you help me? I need to get something off the counter." Help is to just do it for them. Support would be, "Hey, why don't you grab that chair? Utilize this tool. You can do that. Take this tool, drag it over there, climb up on the chair, reach up on the counter, and now you've become self-sufficient." Yeah. So support is something that's
a great
given.
Distinction.
It's something that's given so you can learn how to support yourself. Help, there are times for help, but a lot of people will avoid asking for support under this feeling that they're probably not even aware of, that they feel helpless, and that might be poking at this wound of I don't feel worthy, and now by asking for help, it's actually inflaming this wound of unworthiness.
Which is definitely something that I also struggled with during ceremony, of asking for help or support and going through that battle.
Yeah.
And then, do I want support? I can do it myself, but then I need it, but then I don't want to ask for it. Back, forth.
Yeah. It's a common one. Yeah, I can speak as a man that a lot of men, not just myself included, but a lot of men that I've worked with over the years have struggled with that.
Yeah.
They don't want to feel they need help.
Yeah.
So just a little reframe of, but I can ask for support. I don't need help, but I can ask for support. And now it becomes empowering rather than this feeling of belittling.
Yeah.
Because underneath, for a lot of men that I've worked with, is this feeling of unworthiness. Right. Like, I'm going out into the world to prove my worth, whether it be through business, real estate, women, like whatever it is, they're trying to prove worth. And so it's actually coming from the wounded place of unworthiness. And so then to ask for help, it's just like grinds in that same wound.
Yep.
So with that being said, is unworthiness something that you've worked on?
Yes,
or worked
definitely.
through?
I'm still working through. Definitely been a big part of what I work through and working on, and understanding, well, it was really being there for myself, my inner child. That was how I worked through it during ceremonies. And pretty much understanding that I am me and I'm worthy just because I am me.
And how does that feel? When you can feel that sense of worthiness, not trying to trick yourself into feeling, but actually feeling it deep in your body. What does it feel like?
It feels like things don't matter. Like, I'm just me. Like, I'm not trying to go and prove myself. So it's definitely one of the harder things that I've been working through the past year. Definitely felt like I have been put in a box and I wasn't able to be me. So just being able to be me is part of loving myself and understanding that I'm worthy just because I'm me. And I don't need to have anything else to prove that I'm worthy. I don't need to prove it to anybody. As long as I know that, then I feel good about myself. Definitely something that I work through and working on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the work ever finished, A lot of people, is healing something you've done, or is it something you do? You know, all these questions that come up. But the transition from, you know, in your subconscious mind, in your beliefs about yourself, without even realizing you have the belief about yourself, like with this unworthiness, we go out into the world to try to prove. But once we realize there's nothing to try to prove, it removes the I need to go do this to I get to. And that's the transition from lack. Like, I need something outside of myself to prove myself. When we don't need to prove ourselves, now we get to be ourselves and operate from that place of fullness, which is abundance. So essentially, it's the shift from lack to abundance without needing anything to prove it.
It's a beautiful way to put it. I actually was just talking about the self-worth in therapy this week for probably the 10th time this year. But yes, it's definitely a big part of my journey, and talking to other people, it seems like it's a struggle for a lot of people, and it's hard work to really be there for yourself and understand and feel it deeply that you don't need to prove anything. But that's from going from not being me to being me. And just being me.
That's beautiful. Is there anything, if I were to ask you, if there was any words of wisdom or encouragement that you'd be willing to share for anyone listening, not necessarily to try to push them to ayahuasca, but just, you know, any words of wisdom in the healing process? Because some of the people listening to this may not be interested in drinking ayahuasca. They'd be maybe more interested in breath work or meditation. You know, so it's not just all ayahuasca. But
I don't think ayahuasca is necessarily the answer for everybody. For me, that's how I got through my journey, and that's where I'm at right now. I think there's a lot of tools out there for everybody to find their healing. And I think I want to talk about, for anybody struggling with fear and the fear of dealing with whatever the unknowns about your healing process, and maybe like the classic fear is, I don't know what I'm going to uncover, or I don't know what I'm going to think about, and there are all types of therapies that you can go a little bit into the subconscious, and I guess that's scary for people. It is scary. But there's no better reward than actually going through that and feeling so good about yourself when you actually figure it out, figure yourself out. So it's going to be hard either way. You could either be stuck in this place that you're in of scared to heal, or go through the hardness of actually healing. You just got to choose your hard. And I think that the absolute no-brainer answer is choose your heart of healing, because ultimately you will be happier. Every step of the way, you feel like you accomplish. When you go through something hard and you face your fears, you feel good about it. So it doesn't have to be ayahuasca. Breathwork is so powerful. And Alex,
and it's just your breath.
Like, you and your wife give breathwork classes, so I guess that's something that maybe you can offer to people too who are maybe not in or can't drink ayahuasca for whatever medical reason. There are other answers, and it's just your breath. You could do it at home. You could do it wherever you are, and it could really help lead you into a powerful healing world where you can know yourself.
Yeah. What you touched on there, and by the way, thank you for sharing that. What you touched on there was the pulling something up from the subconscious. So, you know, we have our conscious mind. That's what we're operating in right now. And then there's the subconscious that stores the memories of, you know, trauma, of joy, of like everything, your whole life. It's stored in there, in your brain, in your subconscious mind. Your whole life is there. And for most of us, we're not thinking about it. We're not responding to it. We're just going through our life blind and just kind of crashing through life. And Carl Jung said it, and I might butcher it, but he said, until you bring the subconscious mind to the conscious, you'll be ruled by it and call it fate. And so, as you start, I bring that up because for most people, before doing any sort of inner work, they have no idea what's in their subconscious mind. It's like a massive junk drawer in your kitchen.
That's how I felt before. I was like, this is just my life. Like, I guess I'm just somebody that's going to be anxious their whole life. Like, that's just how I'm destined to be. Like, I'm not dealing with any. I'm over the past. Oh. But that past was controlling me.
Yeah.
So I didn't think about it, but it controlled me because it wasn't allowing me to move through it.
Yeah. Wow.
This has been a great conversation.
It has. I really appreciate you coming on. This is my first time ever hosting a podcast, and this was a lot of fun.
It's been great. I really appreciate you having me on here. It's my first time being a guest on a podcast, and I hope that people really can gain something out of it.
Thank you. It was an honor and a privilege to be on here with you, and it's been a privilege to be a part of your healing journey.
Yeah, thank you for everything.
You're welcome.
It's been a privilege to be in your container, as they say.
Well,
yeah.
That is the end of our episode 2 of the Tikkun Podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast, you can find a link below, click subscribe. Anyways, thank you for listening, and I hope to have you check it out again.
Thank you.